Well, good day, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Well, last Saturday was our fall type-in here in Albuquerque, and we held it at the Old Special Collections Library in East Downtown, across the street from my grandparents' old house. I used to play at that library. This was waiting for us. When the staff got at the library that morning, they found this typewriter, an orphaned child sitting on the steps of the library entrance with a note. The note was actually written on the back cover of the owner's manual, and it said, "For typewriter event, vintage script typewriter." Vintage script typewriter? Well, this is the machine. It is a 5 Series Smith Corona in this lovely kind of chocolate brown with mint green logo. The lighter keys are kind of that mint green, and then the darker green main keys. The silent, this is a Smith Corona Silent. The silent logo is in green, and then your paper table scale is in yellow. Very handsome looking typewriter. Considering a lot of these came out in more drab colors like gray, for instance, this is a pretty nice looking color. It also came with the owner's manual, and the owner's manual was literally crinkled up or folded up badly, and my wife did a great job of ironing the pages flat again. Thank you. But the back cover, the front and back cover are detached from the main pages of the manual, but the back cover, someone had handwritten in here. They left it as an orphan typewriter at the library, right? And they said, "For typewriter event, vintage script typewriter." And I saw that, says, "Oh, really?" Well, this is a pretty standard Smith Corona Silent, and I have other videos in my series about these 5 Series machines. So briefly, 1, 2, or 3 line spacing. This is your temporary line spacing ratchet release. This is the permanent line spacing clutch release right here. Margin settings here. The rabbit ear style paper support here. Paper bail with 3 rollers. Paper release lever. Right platen knob. And then, of course, one of the things we really love about these 5 Series machines is the ability to remove the platen easily. And so to do that, the best way is to move the left margin release all the way to the left side so you can move the carriage all the way to the right, and then pull out this clutch button on the left knob, and then this lever right here, push it up and pull the platen out, and there she is. And one of the great things about these 5 Series machines is you can swap the platens out, and that's exactly what I'm going to do before I start writing on this, because it's a very hard platen. A small slotted head set screw, you can swap out the knobs and so maintain the same color of knobs when you do swap your platen from the other machine that you might have. Anyway, to put this back in, you want to set this end in and fiddle with it, rotate it until it locks into place. You want to make sure this fully seats in here, and then you can push this down, flip, flip, push in, and you're done with swapping out the platen. And all the rest of the controls are the same. You have your ribbon reversing here, you have your bichrome setting, tabulator, backspace, keyboard, but the keyboard is slightly different because it's a script machine. Well, you'll notice that this is one of those Smith Coronas from the 50s that doesn't have the number 1 key to the left of the number 2 key, and on most every typewriter of this generation they would have used a lowercase l as a substitute for the number 1. However, this happens to be a script machine, and the lowercase l doesn't look anything like the number 1. So, what do? Well, right here on the key to the right of the L, that would originally have been a semicolon and colon, they have a number 1, and the colon is the shifted character. And when I first saw this symbol, I thought it was a vertical bar because it doesn't have the little feet on the symbol on the key, but it is indeed the number 1. So that means on this particular machine, you don't have a semicolon. You have to do a colon, backspace, and comma to make a semicolon. Now, of course, this typewriter is a product of its generation, of its era. And back then, most all of these American-style keyboards had the cent symbol. But if we were making this typewriter today, I would have suggested get rid of the cent symbol, move the at symbol to the shifted 1, and then this key could be semicolon and colon together. That would have made more sense in 2023, but back in the 1950s, the cent symbol was used commonly enough that they included it on a lot of manual typewriter keyboards. But this is what makes it different. The number 1 key is to the right of the L key, and it is below the colon. So it's unshifted is 1, shifted is colon, and there is no semicolon. So here's a close-up shot of the typeface on some of these characters, and it is the HK insignia with a 46. That indicates it is the type 46 script. When you get to some characters like punctuation characters, the 46 is actually dispensed with, like this one here for the 1 and the colon. It's not the 46 mark, it's a different typeface. And then for the period, the upper and lowercase period, it is the foundry mark as a number 1 typeface. So, of course, there wouldn't be a script period. So not all the characters in the character set are of type 46, only the main letters and numbers and main punctuation symbols. So February 26, 2022, Ted Monk wrote a really good blog article called The Story of Vertical Script, aka Script 46RA or Oxford Script. And it turns out that it starts in the 1928 Ransmeyer-Rogerian catalog as a 46RA script type, but Smith Corona didn't adapt it until like 1931, and then in 1948 they called it vertical script, and then they began calling it script number 46, which is a 10-pitch script. That was around 1954. So several different manufacturers did use this, including later on Underwood used it, and some of the old Hammond type shuttles for the Hammonds had this on them as well. So it is a really elegant, interesting script, and obviously it raises the question of letter writing. This might be an ideal typeface for letter writing, but let's take a look at it. Let's do some test typing and take a close look at this, shall we? Well, this is a very interesting typeface. And, you know, the machine has a bichrome setting. A lot of script machines didn't permit a bichrome because the letters were often too tall. I did print some letters in red, but there is a little bit of black on some of the letters on the tops of the red there. So either it's not optimal, or often bichrome ribbons aren't manufactured with the dividing line between red and black exactly in the middle, so there's some variation there. And also, perhaps my typewriter on feet might need adjusting, but that raises a good point, is it's more difficult to tell if the on feet need to be adjusted or motion, that is the upper and lower case relative to each other, because a lot of the letters are so differently shaped, being a vertical script typeface. But what I can tell, it kind of looks to me like it's pretty close. The uppercase is pretty close. So here is the typing sample, and I've seen some of the numbers, especially the 6 and the 8, are a little bit faint on places, and I did notice if I put a thicker backing sheet on this typewriter, the printing quality gets better on some of these. It's just due to the hard platen, really. If I'm going to be using this machine for any length of time, like writing letters next week at the library, I'm just going to swap out the platen with my new J.J. Short platen that's in my Silent Super. Another super reason to have a 5 series, I have several 5 series Smith Coronas. But anyways, it's really a lovely script typeface, and it does resemble handwriting, although it doesn't look like my handwriting, because my handwriting would be illegible, which is why I like to type letters rather than handwrite them. But I will say, as far as readability goes, I think a more standard pica, whatever typeface, would be a little more readable than this script. It's a little bit slower reading it, especially if you want to read it rapidly, just because it's different looking. But it does give it a certain style that I think is very, very appealing and attractive to letter writers especially. Well, as far as maintenance on this typewriter, yes, it was very dirty. There were so many rubber eraser crumbs dried up from years and years, and it looked like I don't think the machine had ever been serviced. So it took a lot of cleaning, but it cleaned up pretty well. And it hasn't had any glitches, like no spacing issues with the escapement or anything like that. The paint job, though, on this machine is probably the best I've ever seen on a 5 series. It's essentially immaculate, not hardly any even wear marks on the corners, no scratches, and so yeah, a really beautiful machine. And so chocolate brown and green, this is like one of those mint candies that are chocolate with mint inside. That's kind of what this looks like. And why does everything come back to food with me all the time? There's something there we have to talk about later. I'll leave a link down below for the blog article of Ted Monk where he talked about these vertical script machines. I wish you the very best in your creative pursuits, and as always, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.